Again. 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 Again.
Hello everybody and welcome! You may have already seen my Kerbal Space Program 2 trailer recreation in Kerbal Space Program 1. If you haven't, please go and watch that. I'll link that up over there somewhere. And, well, a lot of you have asked me how the hell I did all of what I did in that video, so I thought I'd make a short making off video, totally unscripted, and show you what I did and how I did it in Kerbal Space Program as well as in the editing. Okay, so let's go into full screen mode over here and let's have a little bit of a watch comparing both of the videos laid on top of each other. So the original is at 30% opacity somehow, and so we will mostly see my video. And right off the bat over here you can see that that the moon is way bigger. It's like huge in it's huge in the original video, but it's tiny in KSP. So they tricked you in that trailer, but that, I mean, it looks better because in my video it's like a tiny little blob. Okay, I didn't get the angle completely right, and yeah, I also missed the opportunity for a little joke here, because down here it says not actual gameplay, and should have just copied that and crossed the not out for my trailer, because mine was actual gameplay. Okay, we got the mooncraft separating. I think I got that almost right. And then the Kerbal looking out of the window. Yeah, that was basically, I just built a hull around a Kerbal. You can see my craft is on the left side and theirs is on a little bit more in the center of the screen. Landing. That was hard to get it to match with the shadows. If you look over here, no, you see on the left hand side the shadow coming down, and if you look into the center of the to the center of the screen, there you can see, where is it? There is the shadow in the real Kerbal Space Program. So the shadows are not that pronounced as in the trailer, of course, because the game renders it differently. And it's not on the same side, but yeah, I think I got away with that. And this here, to make it as smooth as it was, it's reversed footage. So basically I was already landed, and then I decided to just fire the thrusters and start it very slowly so that the landing gear would have this smooth motion. Okay, and of course getting the solar panels out. And then we have a Kerbal falling down, and unfortunately the Kerbal in Kerbal Space Program falls down like this, and in the trailer he dropped back, so yeah, it wasn't completely correct, but one more trickery over here. You see their Kerbin, and you see my Kerbin. Once again, they fooled you with the distance of the objects in space, or maybe Kerbal Space Program 2 features a not 10% size universe, but 2%? Who knows? I don't think so. I think this is just for artistic purposes only. And yeah, we're going to build that Saturn Heavy over there. That was mostly done in editing. I'll show you later. And yeah, this is actually the first time I watched the entire trailer laid over my thing, what I did. Yeah, quick couple of scenes, and then yeah, I of course was not able to make Duna in such a way that the Terminator is 90 degrees wrong, but yeah. That was a little bit of a mistake on their part from physics, from astronomics, physics, whatever, science point of view. Well, it's not accurate. And here their ship is a little bit, yeah. That scene, we'll talk about that later when we come to the vehicles themselves. And a little bit of these montages. that was funny to film, really. I really tried to make that work and it didn't, but yeah, just some quick montages again. And then we're going to approaching the final scene of the trailer. And once again, we have some trickery over here. Because their planet, of course, is way huge, and then there is this large moon inside the rings, which is weird, but yeah. My ship is not really in the same positions as theirs, and of course, Joule is not as large as this gas giant. Whatever, I did the best I could, and I think it worked out okay. And now we have those vehicles. Yeah, some of you spotted that. What I did here is I, in fact, actually reversed the footage. So this was actually the lander was on the base, and then I fired the engines and made it move away, and the camera zoomed far away from the base, and then I reversed the footage so it would have this effect. And I was not able to make the construction effect like I did for a Saturn V kind of thing. Yeah, of course, their panning and zooming is a lot smoother than mine. But in the end, the result, I think, is almost the same because their base crumbles and my base crumbles. And yeah, the planet is different, and of course I don't have any rings, but boom, there we go. That was the trailer. Alright, let's get out of there and let's look at the vehicles. I posted all of the vehicles that I created for this little video into a special hangar on Kerbal X. So I'm going to link that down below. I also linked that in the original video. You can have a look at that. And a huge thanks to the people on my Discord server who helped me out with some of the construction of the vehicles. Without you guys, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So big thanks. And if you have Discord, join my server. Link is in the description. We can have a chat about space and technology and Kerbal Space Program, of course. Okay, let's open up the Moonlander. There we go. All right, this is very straightforward. The only interesting part, in my opinion, is this here down there, because what they are doing. And let me grab a little bit of a screenshot I made from for the vehicles. You see here they have these kind of variable nozzle magnetic things, and that's the same engine that's down at the bottom of the Moonlander. You can't see it really well in the trailer itself because you only see the engine up close like this on top here. But if we go over here, you can see that it extends over there. So yeah, that's what it is. It's basically just some structural parts and decouplers that don't fire. And I used the, what's it called? These little twitch landing engines as some sort of aesthetic element. They are not capable of firing. What is capable of firing is the Cheetah engine hidden in here. So this is not just for looks, this is actually working. And for the crumbling stuff I put 4 landing struts down here, and then on this I clicked and said remove from symmetry, so the 3 other ones would stick and I could move this freely around and put it on a decoupler. So as soon as I made that scene where I made the Kerbal fall down and whatever, there I fired the decoupler. And how did I fire the decoupler? Well, that's part of Moonlander 2 because I forgot to set this thing on the first one, and then yeah. Basically what's happening is it's a timer, 15 seconds, and after 15 seconds, the decoupler fires and the thing topples over. Why 15 seconds, you ask? Well, let's see if I can find an original video of how I attempted the landing. Not landing, the, what's it called? The crash of the Moonlander. There we go. So basically what I did, I had to focus on the Kerbal over there. I had to focus on that Kerbal, and then I had to set the camera to aim onto the other Kerbal in front, the female Kerbal, and make the camera just right so that it would have this type of shot. So what I did, I switched to the lander, I started the timer, I switched back to the Kerbal on the ladder, then I aimed the camera onto the standing Kerbal on the surface, and then I basically just waited to be lucky to let the Kerbal fall down so it would coincide with the landing leg exploding. Not exploding, but decoupling. So this took like, I don't know, a few attempts. Let's just call it that. There was a lot of mental again going on. So yeah, let's move on to something a little bit more easily done, which was actually this little thing here. The Saturn Heavy. Alright, enough with the shenanigans. Basically, this is a very simple rocket, and it's just firing and period. What did happen was, in order for me to make this stacking of the rocket, I had to film it 3 times. First, just the tower. Second, the rocket without the side boosters. And third, the complete rocket. I used camera tools. Let's launch that, so maybe I can show you what exactly I mean. Camera tools is a mod. I have a video on that and how to use that. Once again, there's an icon over there somewhere where I link that video. Alright, just waiting for it to load. Okay, camera tools. Over here we say open path, and then we have the Saturn launch path that I made, and let's see what happens. That is for when it actually launched. Yes, this was basically what's going on. I made that path, and then of course I entered full screen mode. And in actuality, this was not focused like in here on the rocket, but it was focused on the tower. That's why the camera angle was a bit different. But I had to record that 3 times, and that's what resulted in this here over here. If you watch this really closely, you can see here the rocket building. Yes, but of course, those are 3 composite videos. So first is the tower video, so we don't have any rocket at all, and then just the main stack stacking up, and then the other ones. If you look closely, you can see some irregularities here where I did not completely, and over here, that was a bit of a mistake. So for some reason the blue color of the sky was different in one recording than to the other. Yeah. And I did not really manage to do the pathing as well as I could have. So basically what's going on over here, let's move over to this other feature in DaVinci. We have these keyframes over here, and what I did was, there you can see it a little bit better, I just cropped, not really cropped, but I made a mask so that only the parts are visible that I wanted to have visibles, and it would jump to the next one. There's no smooth transition. There is later for something else, but in this case, as you can see up top, it was just first tank, second tank, third stuff, and then of course the top. And then the other ones are a different clip. So 3 clips laid on top of each other. And these markers are where I marked where the original rocket was building itself. So if you lay it on top, marker number 1, marker number 2, there's next tank, marker number 3, next item, and so on. So yeah, very, very simple stuff. This was just some craft I smashed into a small space station. Nothing fancy about that. The jet was just activating... with this jet, I just activated the cockpit view and also created a camera path that would sort of swoosh beside the cockpit. And then I just nose dove into those buildings and pulled it up while I was activating the camera path. Originally, I wanted to fly below the bridge, but after like 10 attempts, I was like, nope. This is just 1 second of video, I'm not going to waste any more time on that. Yeah, the launch escape system is basically just the launch escape system from the Saturn Heavy. Alright, that's a fun little thing. Where is it? The Jeb Centrifuge. Where is it? There it is. So basically this thing is just a seat, and you put your Kerbal in there, and then you launch it and film it. So basically that's all there is to it, but it's fun to look at. Let's have a look at it. All right, let's move him into space directly, and then I can aim the camera over here. These reflections are just because I have a blue tinted and an orange tinted light over there, and then just start the motor. And yeah, the only thing I did was basically, I think I aimed the camera over here. There we go. And then it was like, whoa, this weird little effect. Okay, back to the spaceships. Right, what was the next thing? Yeah, the next thing is, oh, that's a beautiful ship. I really enjoyed seeing that in the original, and we're going to have it over here. There we go. 810 parts, so could be manageable for not too shabby systems. So let's activate the hangar extender so we can actually use it. That vehicle over there, it's just a space plane, and over here we have the simple turning mechanism. We have inside a rotor from the Breaking Ground expansion. So this is turning the habitation section, so to speak, with a very low RPM. So I really don't want this to go haywire. And then we have these structural plates that make up the a lot of reaction wheels, because this thing is heavy. And then over here we have the pistons. They're not doing anything. They are locked. They are just here for looks, basically. What I do have in here is actual propulsion. So the Orion engine is a nuclear engine, so I gave some nuclear engines in there. What does happen though is if you start to fire them, then these structural panels will explode. But yeah, for the purpose of that video it was enough, and you can imagine that a nuclear bomb drops out of that hole in here, fires, and then pushes the pusher plate. If this were a real thing, this is really just optical illusion. Anyhow, let's move swiftly on. Of course, there is this small scene where there is sort of that Orion firing, and what that is basically I just removed unnecessary parts from the Orion craft, and I added this explodey mechanism. So basically, it's just a boom and just a separator, a decoupler with some separatrons over here that act basically as a missile to hit this tank. And let's see how that works out. I had to experiment a lot with where the sun comes from, so that the things look almost exactly like in the video. So lighting is very important if you do video work, even in this case. So, and then that was mainly basically the shot, and then boom! boom! Something exploded. Yay! And that was basically what happened. Where's the Orion BOOM? There, over here. Huh? That was what happened here. You can't see it because it's a little bit out of reach. There's the tank back here, and then boom, the thing. You can just see it. See, there is still the little missile, so to speak. And if we move a few frames forward, you can see it still, and boom. That's how that was done. Let's go over to this shot. Some of you commended me on how I made the jet and the rover drive in front and the back of the base. Well, I cheated. What I did was, yes, the rover is correctly driving, but the plane is not. Where is it? There it is. You see? Once again, I did some pathing over here, and what that means is that the plane was basically hidden on those parts where the base would be in front of it. But why would that be the case? Well, of course, I just filmed the plane alone and cut it out. You see? That's what I did. So this is basically, I did film the plane flying over Duna, but I never got it right so that it would fly right behind the base and then the rover exactly in front. It was a logistical nightmare. So, which also happened for a lot of other reasons, the logistical nightmares. Anyhow, the base is not really spectacular, just in parts put together. And let's look at the rover, because that's a nice thing. I think I created a little bit of a nice rover over here. Move over, rover. Okay, there we go. This is the Duna Rover, and basically what it is 6 rotor motors with the structural tubes and propellers for optical reasons, because the tube is attached directly to the rotor. And then I'm using these grip pads for grip. And what happened over here was, well, of course, this would act sort of as a tire, and it actually works. So there was no trickery involved with the rover, because that was actually the easy part. What I did was I started the rover's engines, and then I started to drive it, and it would move in front of the base. I set it on you just set it on go and it goes straight. So that was really easy. And then I just had to time it right with the camera path. Here we have the rover, and I set the RPM of the rover to the wheel throttle. And as you can see here, then it turns. So we have this over here on the left hand side, and this on the this on the right hand side. So it's driving now at a very comfortable 6 meters per second. So how can we steer it? Well, if you look closely to the RPM limits of these rotors, if I want to have it turn right, left in that case, I inverted them. Then now we turn right. I steer left, but it goes right. I inverted that by accident. Anyhow, so what's happening is that the rotor RPMs are changing, and therefore it turns left or right, as you can see. Whoops! Something exploded. That's better, because that was the wrong one. Okay, now we can see it better. You see, one side has higher RPM than the other, and that's how it turns. And now it exploded. Well, a lot of smoke going on. Yeah. Well, for the most part, when I did the video, I had unbreakable joints and no crash damage on because I really wanted to avoid having just reload every second or something like that. Okay, that's the rover. Right. The Kerbal on the ladder was just having its timed right. I already spoke about that. That was just a heat shield decoupling. For this scene, this was a fun little scene. For the scene of the Asteroid Racers, or Asteroid Racers, I put together via a, what's it called, hyper edit. I edited a lot of asteroids into the scene. So we had like the illusion of an asteroid field. And then I basically just controlled these little Asteroid Racers and put it in over here, and then I started filming, and yay, Valentina is having fun. Woohoo! And that was basically the shot. I just did some camera movement in post-processing. So this turn and zoom was done here in DaVinci Resolve. What I also did, I didn't mention that, if you noticed on top I have all of these markers in different colors. I had the blue color for the moon landing sequence, I had the green color for the Saturn V, I had red for the Duna stuff, bright green for the Jewel stuff, and this kind of cyan color for the ice moon stuff. Okay, let's move to the Jewel stuff. This scene over here, where it looks like I have this huge Jewel station and that huge interstellar ship, and where it zooms in a little bit, that's just a screenshot. I had to wait 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a lot of minutes, for this to even load. That was a nightmare and a nail-biting experience. I was like, is this going to work? And well, it did for a short while until it, exploded. You see how smooth and fast these explosions sort of are? Well, what you have here is the original take of that scene. You can see one explosion. That explosion occurred at, well, even before I started recording that. So the first 1 minute and 15 seconds of 16, 18, 20. The first minute and 20 seconds of that scene where everything explodes was just the first, I'm going to explode. And then this happened at 120. This took 5 seconds. Then some more 5 seconds. So this was my actual frame rate I got of those 5,165 parts. Okay, we're still freezing. And we're moving on. Yeah. You can see how slow this is moving away. I'm going to scrub a little bit ahead. Then I change the camera angle. The tricky thing is, if you know you want to speed that up in post-processing, or during the editing, then you really have to think about how long you linger on that shot, because every second in here is going to be just 1/10 of a second in the editor. And look here, we're already freezing again. So basically, it took from start to here took 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So it basically took, for the glow to start, it took, for the engine glow to begin, it took from 2 minutes 50 or 2 minutes 45 something, 46, 246 to 3:30 for a light to go on. So you can imagine how excruciatingly slow this was. And yeah, the ship moving away at, I don't know, 1 second per frame, 2 seconds per frame. that was also, this is real time, what you're looking here. Look at that tank in the foreground. It's like bump, 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 and it is gone. Yeah. And I wasn't even sure if those habitation modules in front were even turning, because I set them to turn, and then I wasn't sure whether or not this was working. And yeah, I just that entire shot, this entire scene was just a Hail Mary. I just pressed record, and just whatever happened, I got on it, and yeah, I did not bother with trying it again, because that was so tedious. Okay, that base integration, this integration, let's look at that a little bit. That was fun. Let's look first. No, let's look at the Interstellar ship, because it's nice. 3,457 parts. These rotational modules in front are the same as with the Duna ship. And over here, one of the things that takes up a lot of the part count are these cargo containers. And if you look closely, I cheated a little bit, because over here you can see I did not add the lid like in the front. Same with these here, I just did half of it. And yeah, because I thought about, okay, from which angle am I going to look at this? And then I said, okay, those angles are going to get the nice parts, and the others are not. So let's move back to the engine bell, and what you can see here is one vector engine. So this is the entire propulsion for this 715,000 kilograms or 715 ton monster. The engine bell is just structural parts, plates, and these beams. And of course we have these illuminators outward, which sort of simulate those injector things that they had in the original trailer. And over here we have the illuminators set to sort of that bluish color to simulate this engine bell firing that we saw in the original trailer. Yeah, and that is this ship. And the Joule station itself, it's 3,457 parts over here. And let's have a short look at the Joule station as well. All right, over here we have all of these large solar panels. I used empty Clydesdale solid boosters for the sort of structural beams. Once again, the same rotational things over here. They did not rotate. I set them to stay still, because that wouldn't have been important for the shots I wanted to get. Those sort of round tanks that you can see in the trailer, they all look different over here, because it's really hard to get a shape completely exactly the same with fairings. And yeah, those were not in the video very present, so I did not spend too much effort on that. This is going to be the stuff that's attached to the ship, and this as well is almost 1,700 parts, so yeah, a lot of hardware that's being used for just a few seconds of video. All right, let's look now at the base disintegration, or the first base disintegration. And this was also fairly simple. So we have a few parts, and this landing pad is set to disintegrate with these radial decouplers. And I put some, where are they? There they are. I put some Separatrons over here so that that vehicle would actually really tip over, otherwise it would just fall down. And how does this look like when it launches? All right, so here is the base. Let's remove the UI. And as you can see here, I used a lot of lights to simulate the windows of these sort of habitation containers. And then, of course, if I hit stage, then all of it crumbles down, as you can see. Boom! And explosions everywhere. And that is basically what then was, back in the video, this shot. So over here, that was the same thing. I moved it. If you look closely, you can see in the background that's Kerbin. So I moved it to the Highlands with Vessel Mover. It's another very useful mod where you can take a vehicle and move it anywhere you like. And boom! Oh, we're already done. So yeah, it's just those are just a few seconds of video, even half a second or something like that. But you have to get it right if you want to get it right. Boom! This crumbling base. There it is, and it's gone. Yeah, this here. If you look at it closely, that's a very simple vehicle. Once again, I just used radial symmetry, 8 of these radiators. Then I removed one from symmetry and added some Sepatrons over here to simulate the sort of fire or the sparks that you can see in the original. If you look in the original overlaid over here, you can see some sparks flying over there, and I used the Sepatrons to create that same effect. Then, yeah, just some Kerbals sitting around and the camera moving into them. And then we have that large ice moon lander ship. That thing gave me a few headaches, to be honest. Because the lander itself, let's talk about the lander itself. That was not so easy to get the landing legs right. So let's move it a little bit up here so we can inspect it a little bit closer. What I did for engines, because a lot of these engines in the KSP2 trailer, they have like these fins for cooling maybe, or for some other effect, I don't know. Basically what this is, it's a mastodon, and I put some structural parts in there to create these fins. And over here we have propellers and some other parts to sort of make an old engine look new. Okay, we have our lander, our controller over here, and basically what I had to do is make a lot of parts connect to each other. And how do you do that? So what's basically happening is these hinges and these pistons are doing most of the work. If you look over here, it moves in and out. But hey, why aren't the legs actually moving? The actual legs? Well, there's a reason for that. Look at these decouplers. Docking ports, of course. What they do, they are the ones that connect the rest of the landing gear to these actually moving parts. So these rotors over here, they are not motorized, if you look here. They are not motorized, which means they have no resistance. They are basically just parts turning. And I started using these other rotor parts, these rotation servos, but this did not work. I don't know why, but Kerbal Space Program said and basically gave me the finger and I could not do anything with it. I started working with it, and it only resulted in a lot of problems, and I don't know why, but yeah. In the end, I settled on this, and it actually turned out really cool. So let's have a look at it. Alright, and here it is in all its glory. I have two action groups I'm going to use. One is activating the landing gear, and the second is reversing the direction. So let's activate it over here. There we go. And now, since the docking ports are docked, they pull the landing gear with them. Great. And now I reverse the direction. And now it moves back outward. And we can see here everything works as advertised. Now what I also have is a key binding or an action group to lock these parts. There we go. Now it's locked. It says servo is moving, but if you press it a lot of times, then even though that thing is displaying, it still works. And the effect that this has is that the landing gear is now a lot more stable. So what I can do using HyperEdit is put this on, let's say, the runway, and see whether or not that landing gear is actually stable enough to hold that vehicle's weight. Of course, the engines are not powerful enough to work in Kerbin's atmosphere. Oh no, they are, because it also worked on lathe, so it should be able to lift off. But let's see how this behaves. Yeah, it does a few squats, but it stays together. It does not explode. I don't have any cheats activated in regards to that. You see, no unbreakable joints or no crash damage. So let's make this fly away, and it slowly lifts off. And then it also slowly goes back down. Boom. So yeah, it's working. It's not just pretty, it's also working. Okay, if you look closely, I have a two versions of the Ice Moon ship. I call it Ice Moon Ship Total. Whatever. The first one is 3.5, almost 3,600 parts. Why? I had the complete lander, which alone is 900 parts, and very fancy construction on that ship, and it was a nightmare to work with. So I tweaked it and I removed all of these fancy landing leg stuff, and then I ended up with something that is 1,000 parts less, so 1,100 parts less. So that's a lot more manageable, of course. Let's see if it loads. Alright, here it is, and let's once again use Hangar Extender. Moving to the lander up front, you can see the landing gear is basically just a mock-up. And I also removed a lot of these structural panels in here, as well as over there, because they take up a lot of part space. Same here, those are hollow. We only have them in the front because in the shot where you see it approach lathe, you basically only see these parts over here and over here. The other ones they don't matter. And then over here, this is the cause for this huge part count, because I added all of these donuts with the tiny micronode inside. And in the original, I even had 2 more parts per node. So you can take all of this, multiply it by 8, and then multiply it by 2. And that's how I saved 1,000 parts. And in here we have a few vector engines again. So yeah, this engine bell is just for show. And how it worked, you've already seen it in the trailer. Then, of course, we had the ship landing on the outpost, so to speak. And what I did is, if you look at this video, I just started the engines, and then I realized, okay, I'm focusing this all wrong. And there we go. Here we go. So basically what I did is I made the lander take off from the base, and then I zoomed out with the camera. And I could have done it similarly to what I did with the Saturn Heavy, where I filmed it with more or less parts. And I also tried that over here, but I never got the location of the base exactly right, because on Kerbin it is easy. You have the launch pad, and if you launch the vehicle, it's there. But over here I had to teleport the base every time to the same spot on lathe, but unfortunately it is never completely exact, and then if you set it down, then it slides a bit over here or onto the other side, and so the shots will never align completely. And that's why I did it how I did it. I also want to have what I also did is I used a lot of vessel mover to get the lander on top of the vehicle. The vehicle, of course, the base. That's what I meant. Yeah. Now let's move on. Let's move on to one of the final things, basically. Yeah. Let's have a look at how I filmed the base crash in the end. So you can see here we are on Lathe. I found a nice place with this shallow water where I set down that escape vehicle over here. I set down the scenery parts over there, and then of course I fired the lander. This again was on a timer. So basically what happens is, well, a lot of lag, as you can see. And then finally the other things are launching. But this has not always been the case. The problem was the distance. These scenery parts over here are far away. So they are like more than 500 meters away from the main part. And what I had to do is all of these have these KAL 1000 controllers, and I had to time all of it really right for it to work. So basically, I started with the scenery, the one furthest away. You can see it is 770 something meters away. Then I said, okay, you go now, play. Then I set this to play. It's now playing, and then I switched to the lander and said, okay, you are now doing your dance. And then I switched to the main base for it to start its countdown. And the thing is, if you noticed the yellow outlines around the craft. And yeah, you see one of the problems over here. The yellow outlines are from a mod, which is called Easy Vessel Switcher. You just press the Alt key and the left mouse button, and if you hover your mouse over a vehicle in the distance that you see, and you hold down the Alt key and click left mouse button, and it immediately switches to the other vessel. Maybe we can. Now let's not do that because the video is already taking longer than I expected. Sorry about that. So what you can see in this video is the problem is that it would launch. Only this rocket would launch, and why is that happening? Well, Kerbal Space Program only takes physics into account up until 150 meters or something like that. And this I'm going to demonstrate to you with some little parts that I did. Yeah, we got this over here. And let's launch that. All right, we have this vessel over here. And now I'm going to show you vessel mover. There it is. And you just move it over there and place it. And then I go back to the Space Center and launch the same vehicle again. All right, so as you can see here, the other vehicle is 611 meters away. And we have our, let's disable this. And we have our controller over here. What is it doing? It is, this is also an interesting thing, because this is how I managed to launch a rocket without it being focused. So what you need to do is you have to add one of these controllers over here, and then there is activate engine, easy. And then there is toggle independent throttle. Only if you activate this, then you can set with another item down here the throttle that the engine should actually use. So what I did is I set it to maximum. That was also the same with these escape rockets I'm using on lathe. So basically, use the independent throttle, use the throttle, and then decouple it. So let's give it a go, shall we? I'm going to set the throttle to 0, and let's see what happens. Hands off. And it launches. You see? And the throttle is still set to 0 over here. Okay, let's revert this to launch. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I once again set it to play, and I move up. I switch to the other vessel over here. There we go. And it's not launching. It should launch, right? But it didn't, because it is too far away. So what are we going to do? Well, let's switch back to it. Okay, I mentioned before that this vehicle is too far away. It's 500 or 600 meters away. I can't even see that. But what do we have here? We have a little mod, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this was a hint somebody gave me on my Discord channel. Once again, thanks. Enable mod. So what we can do here is we set the global physics range. So everything in 980 meters around the currently focused vessel will be taken into account. So it will start to wobble, it will start to do stuff, it will fire its engines, whatever. So if I now then go ahead and start my sequence and I switch to the other vessel, you can see it launches. So that's how I did that. And there it goes. It's away now. Goodbye. Right. So that was a short excursion into how this little mod works. So, and that helped me get this base crumble thing going on. So over here, let's just again focus on my original video. This was just the shot from the Kerbals going there, and yeah, as you've seen before, I activated the timer on the scenery back there. I activated the timer on the rocket on the beach. I activated the timer on the lander, and then I activated the timer on the base, and crossed my fingers and hoped that everything would coincide. And after a few failed shots, it did. And this is how it ended up. And I was really happy with it. And yeah, then we have this title sequence. This here is all done in DaVinci. So what I did is I did some compositing again. So I had only this two, and I had only the Kerbal Space Program text over here, which comes in with some animation, and then you have the two, and it has this this sparkly effect going on. Oh no, the sparkly effect is on the is on the Kerbal Space Program text. So if I go into the Fusion tab on DaVinci Resolve, I used, if you look down here, I used this hotspot thing, and basically that is what enabled me to do that. So you can set the hotspot is basically a manual lens flare effect, and you have multiple. I had 3 lens reflections in different colors and different sizes, and where are the keyframes? Yeah, I made them fade out. See, they are going up first. Let's move this over here again. You can better see what's going on. First, they are going to increase. So from the first frame, just a little bit bigger. There we go, boom, the brightest lens flare, and then it fades away to this, and then all of it a little bit slower fades away. So that was the effect I did, and down here I had a second 2. First I had the 2 without the swoosh, and then I had the 2 with the swoosh. And what I did down here was again the where is it? There it is. There it is. You can see the outlines over here, and depending on where we are in the video, it's growing and moving to the sides to create that swoosh over here. So basically I recreated the animation by using still images and using magic in DaVinci to make that happen. And yeah, basically that's what I did. I then added, for just a joke, this "we hope." So since you may have seen my video that Kerbal Space Program will be delayed into Private Division's fiscal year 2021, which starts in April. So maybe it comes out in April 1st, maybe it comes out in May, maybe in June, maybe later. We don't know. The fiscal year 2021 goes until March 2021. So yeah. And that's why I did this "we hope." So let's hope it comes out in 2020. I really root for the developers to get it done, but mostly I root for them to get it right. Once again, thanks for watching, thanks for your time, and yeah. If you have any more questions about how I did that trailer thing and any other stuff, just hit me up in the comments or hit me up on my Discord. And as always, thanks for watching. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.